When an accident happens at work, what comes next is way more than just paperwork. It's actually a critical safety process. And if you get it right, everyone is safer. But if you get it wrong, well, the same mistakes can happen over and over again. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to get it right, using guidance from the International Labor Organization. So let's just ask it straight up. What really happens after a workplace accident? Your first thought might be about blame or insurance claims, but that's barely scratching the surface. The real answer? It's the beginning of a crucial learning process. This isn't about pointing fingers. It's about finding ways to make sure that same thing never, ever happens again. Which brings us to our first big idea, from incident to insight. This is all about how we can take a negative event and turn it into a really positive lesson for the entire workplace. Here's the key. The best safety policies aren't just guesses. They're built on cold, hard data. Every single incident report, no matter how minor it might seem, is a vital piece of that puzzle. It helps everyone spot the hidden dangers, figure out why things went wrong, and design a workplace that is genuinely safer for everybody. But okay, before we can get into the how, we need to be crystal clear on the what. What exactly counts as an event you need to report? The definitions are actually pretty specific. First up, we have the one we're probably all familiar with, an occupational accident. The key phrase to remember here is arising out of, or in the course of work. Basically, it means there's a direct link between the job activity and the injury. Next is an occupational disease. Now, this is so important because it covers health issues that develop over a long time. Think about illnesses from long-term exposure to chemicals, or maybe even repetitive stress injuries. It's not one single event, but the result of the conditions you work in. And the scope can actually extend beyond the workplace doors. A commuting accident is exactly what it sounds like. It can cover that direct journey to and from work, and even to places you might go for lunch or to get paid. And this one is absolutely vital for prevention, a dangerous occurrence. Just think of it as a near miss or a close call, an event that could have caused serious harm, but luckily it didn't. Reporting these is how you fix problems before they actually hurt someone. Now, just remember, your local laws might tweak these definitions a little, so always check. Okay, so now that we know what to report, let's look at the process itself. It's actually pretty simple. You can break it all down into a 3-step flow of information. This is the whole chain of command right here. It kicks off with the worker reporting the incident, the employer then records it, and finally the employer notifies the official authorities. Reporting, recording, notification. That's the entire process in a nutshell. So, who's actually responsible for each of those steps? Well, this next section breaks down the specific rights and responsibilities for everyone involved. This table lays it all out pretty clearly. The worker reports to their supervisor, the employer then reports it for their own internal files, and then the employer is the one who notifies the competent authority, like the Ministry of Labor. It's a really clear handoff of information and responsibility. Let's just focus on that first step for a second, reporting. The worker, for sure, has a duty to tell their supervisor what happened. But check out the employer's role. It's just as important. They can't just expect reports to magically appear. They have to actively build a system for it, provide training, and designate a specific person to handle everything. But this brings us to a huge, very real, very human problem. So many people might be thinking this exact thought. This fear of getting in trouble, of retaliation, it can stop the entire safety process dead in its tracks. And that is exactly why international standards are so clear on this. The employer has a duty to protect the person who reports. That means zero tolerance for retaliation, strict confidentiality for all personal and medical info, and open cooperation with workers to make things safer. Creating a culture where it's safe to speak up isn't just a nice to have. It's non-negotiable. Now, here's a crucial point. While these big principles are international, the specific rules for that final step, notification, are totally local. The deadlines, the forms you have to use, who you need to contact, it can all change dramatically from one country to the next. You always have to check your national regulations. For instance, take a look at Singapore. The deadlines are very specific. A fatal accident has to be reported within 10 days. But if an employee actually dies at the workplace, the authorities have to be notified immediately. Now let's jump over and contrast that with Ethiopia. Here, certain types of injuries have to be reported within just 3 days. And for any fatalities, an immediate phone call is required. This just goes to show you, the details really matter, and they are always local. So, all this brings us to our final and maybe most important section, your role in prevention. Because look, whether you're an employee or a manager, you are a critical part of making this whole system work. The main thing to take away today is that your participation is what makes all of this go. Each step, the reporting, the recording, the notifying, it isn't just some administrative chore. It's you, actively helping to create a culture of prevention that turns a bad day into a better, safer tomorrow for you and all your colleagues. It really is that powerful. It all starts with just one person speaking up, with one report being filed. And from that single action comes the insight we need to protect everyone. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Now that you know the why, the what, and the how of this whole process, what's one small thing you can do to help strengthen it in your own workplace?